Welcome back, everybody. It's Monday night. Join us tonight as we discuss the finer topics of how long should you age your Chef Boyardee on the shelf until premium aged, canned goodness is achieved. But we're gonna do something really important here as we start today, and let's get the spoiler banner up from the very beginning, because we're nothing but spoilers tonight. So if you have not seen the episode, please circle back around and enjoy tonight's episode with our hosts post HBO episode. And once again, welcome tonight to our great, amazing hosts, Jackson from Bored and Annoyed and Double O. What is up, brothers?
How you doing, guys? Good to see you.
Thanks for having us, Andy.
I'm excited because this is that feeling of when like you're collecting a comic book and reading. This is like that you reach the end of the first story arc. Now, are they going to deliver on the next arc? Are they going to keep bringing you in and keep sucking you in? And we're actually debating a little bit about what kind of response they're getting, and just talking about on Instagram, HBO's The Last of Us shared this, which it's pretty cool to see that they have surged to 7.5 million viewers Sunday night in the third consecutive week of audience growth. Now, I kind of asked you guys a question. Wait, is that 75 consecutive from the first episode till now, or is that 7.5 million viewers just this past Sunday? If you guys could bring us along on that thought process for a second.
Well, it sounds like, and Double, I think you had looked 7.5 on Sunday watched. So that's pretty awesome.
Fantastic. Going up against the Grammys as well. That's pretty good viewership. So Sunday night, that many people watched. That's great.
Wow. So is there any way to add context to that, especially for me? Do you guys have any numbers or remember off the top of your head like what Walking Dead was kind of drawing in at its height? Or anything?
I don't know, but that's not really a fair comparison because more people have a cable subscription than have premium channels.
Yeah, that was AMC, right?
Yeah, so you'd be better off comparing it to something like House of the Dragon or
sure. Yeah, so
but I don't know. That's a good question. Andy, you're supposed to send us these research topics ahead of time, sir.
Yeah,
I mean, come on.
Live and unscripted. Welcome again. Monday night, not Wednesday night. But yeah, no, these are topics that maybe somebody in the chat or we can dig kind of as we go. Like remember the idea kind of behind this on Monday nights was to create as little work as possible for everybody so that we can just kind of hang out and talk about it and dive into the episode as far as we can go.
Okay, so House of the Dragon was averaging 29 million an episode.
Wow.
Yeah. So you got a ways to go.
House of the Dragon also capitalizing off of the first series, Game of Thrones.
Yep.
Kind of had that spun up. So that's interesting. That's 29 million. So 7.5 was just a start, right?
Yeah, it was 17.5? 7.5.
7.5.
7.5.
Yeah,
so many people popped in and haven't watched it yet.
It's not close, and I'm not surprised. I mean, we really like this, right? But this has not reached the cultural zeitgeist that Game of Thrones did. Right.
Yeah. That's true.
Yeah. I've kind of felt like as we talked about developing or getting into this show and hanging out was that this is going to be a slow burn kind of build. Is the bulk of the fan base for The Last of Us is primarily all video gamers. The comic fandom that knows about The Last of Us knows about those comics primarily because they were into the video games. So, no, you don't sound echoey at all. What did I just say? Echoey? Either way. Kenneth Bird, a lot of people joining in right now. So we kind of traditionally have, I failed a little bit to bring us to this point at the beginning, but kind of giving a grade to start off on before we dig into the episode. Do either one of you guys want to get into this to start?
Sure. I'll say that this was far and away the least I've enjoyed an episode out of the 4. Not to say it was bad, but I would give it like a B minus. I didn't think this one was anything special.
I'm gonna have to agree with you. This one definitely. I thought at first it felt short, but then I realized it actually was short compared to the other ones, and it didn't. It set up again, and it didn't really push too much forward as well. Definitely did a whole bunch of setup. I'm gonna have to agree with you. I would go in the B plus range, 8.5 CGC scale grade. So
I'm gonna follow suit right along with you guys and kind of throw a B minus out there because there's a couple of things that I think they really kind of missed the ball on, and they kind of diverted more from the video game a little bit more, but they really delivered us some treasures right out of the video game, did they not?
Yeah, there were a couple parts that were like fantastic.
right.
I feel like some of the mistakes that he made in The Last of Us 2 with the writing are leaking into this show. And it concerns me a bit.
I picked up on that as well and kind of feel the same way.
You did get your direct
Yes.
word for word verbatim, almost, well, I'd say 95% verbatim right in the back of the truck, which I was watching. I'm like, oh, Andy wanted this. He got his
Yeah, I was gonna say, and Andy, you were right. It fit perfectly. I had no problem with it. That was the sticky pages in the gay porn magazine deal.
Yeah.
That landed absolutely perfect. And
yes.
I just felt there was one missing opportunity from that, whereas when she throws the magazine out, it lands at the base of the Pittsburgh sign. I felt it would have been a perfect opportunity for it to land at the, spoilers, Kansas City sign to hold even tighter to the kind of the game and kind of deliver. I thought that would have been a perfect opportunity instead of us just getting that confirmation through Joel last second as they reach that pileup of cars. Mama Comics love that part as well. There's a couple other parts that we're going to get to. This is probably, like my least favorite as well, landing at like an 8.6 rating on IMDb with the lowest amount of reviews thus far.
It was fine. It felt the most like Walking Dead-esque to me, like mid-tier, mid-era Walking Dead. Come across the people that we haven't met yet from the clan that are going to cause problems. They basically introduce like a group of kind of raider type folk who apparently took over like a quarantine zone in Kansas City. They introduce them in a way that's like horrible. Like they're setting up a trap for Ellie and Joel. And then all of a sudden they're introducing this woman who's the leader, and they got a scene with her where it's like they're trying to make you like empathize with her or like understand where they're coming from. And to me, it doesn't work. I don't care about these people at all. I hope that we spend the minimum amount of time with them, especially knowing, having played the game, that this is like just a diversion and a way to eat up space for time. This is not important.
Yeah, I kind of get that feeling as well.
So up until the point where we see the guy pretending to that he's hurt and going across the middle of the street, they spent the night in the woods, which was a whole different thing. And the coffee, like Mama Comics said, he did make the coffee there, which was pretty cool. But then it follows the game pretty close Then we get to the part so that Hunter, so they're supposed to be hunters, but they just call them people, the people who took over the QZ, and that's their trap, and they're trying to just trap them, steal supplies, and whatever. But then we find out they're actually protecting their land, or they're protecting what they took over from Fedra, and they want the supplies, and they want basically these people look like they've given up or taken over Fedra and kicked them out, and now they have another dictatorship of leadership that they have to deal with. I don't care about them either. I don't think we're going to be spending a lot of time, but it's a way for them to expand a part of the game that wasn't so big. Like in the game, this is a quick, like relatively short time you spend in that town. You take care of business, you get supplies, and you're out. It's a quick pit stop, and here it looks like it's gonna, they've kind of merged a few different parts of the game together. Because this is where we get Ellie, and she uses the gun for the first time in front of Joel.
That was good.
Yeah, that was good, but Joel wasn't mad about it. He actually took it pretty well, and he was sorry about it. Talking to my wife about it, I was like, he was acting more like, I guess, a dad, than he was being upset as he was, in the game where he didn't like it at all because he was still in a different part, in a different mindset. So he's growing a liking to her.
Yeah, that's one thing that I'm not sure the show is doing as well, as I'm not getting that sense that he finds her to be as much of a burden as he did at the beginning of the game. Like, I feel like maybe that relationship is blossoming too quickly. And I mean, we talked about with her, right? Like, her character is different to me as well. It's not quite as innocent in this. And I think they have their reason for that I'm suspecting. But yeah, that was kind of a missed opportunity for me. I like the idea that, like, he gets really pissed. And if I remember correctly in the game, she finally is just like, hey, you're welcome, by the way. Like,
right.
You'd be fucking dead if I wasn't around. So
right.
that didn't really happen here at all. Not in that way.
No, that was different. And then even when he called her cargo, right before that in the truck, he calls her cargo, and it just goes over, like, without any kind of emotional response from her at all. And I wanted her to, like, seriously, I'm just cargo, like, that's it, like something, but they gloss right over that. He says it, but it doesn't really mean anything.
Yeah, and it's like, the way their relationship has been so far, I don't buy it that he thinks of her as cargo. It doesn't like cut me deep, because I'm like, oh, he clearly cares about her. Like, this isn't like, I don't feel as much conflict that he should have about staying at arm's length from someone he'll get attached to again. Like, I'm not feeling that. This episode was very much like a Joel and Ellie episode as far as, like, growing that relationship. And I'm not sure all of that stuff hit the same way. It's different. It's still good. It's just not scratching the same itch. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it's not scratching the same itch. I agree. And speaking of scratching the same itch, one of the biggest missteps, and I don't even know if I should even call it the biggest missteps, but it's one of the things that I caught on that makes me really kind of question a little bit as they continue to divert from the game. The hunters coming off pretty vanilla, in my opinion, here on screen. And this is where I want to dig into this. I have a theory that nobody is talking about anywhere on YouTube. And be prepared, spoilers. And if you got queasy stomachs, just be prepared for this a little bit. But this scene on screen carries so much more weight than I think people are paying attention to. And we'll get back and kind of dig into some of the relationship side of things. But this is one of the things that I kind of wanted to get your guys' opinion on and talk to people in the chat about, because this should carry way more weight here than just a pile of bones. And that's because in the game, it plays out like this. You get Joel and Ellie entering the base camp of the quote unquote hunters. Let's see if I can do this. There we go. Well, the hunters base camp across the street from where they crash. And inside that base camp, after they get through the door, is essentially like a butcher shop / morgue of piles of shoes, piles of shirts and pants and clothing, simply because of the fact that they're hunters for a reason. The game portrays these people as starved of supplies, but for a longer period of time. Now we see a very, very well supplied and stocked group of people in Kansas City. In the game, I feel they're hinting quite heavily at their first level of cannibalism that we see within the Last of Us universe, which added a terrifying, thrilling element when we first see humans as the larger enemy being portrayed instead of the infected. So this is a misstep that I feel happened on screen here, where they could have made this way less vanilla and maybe way more terrifying than how it played out.
I mean, isn't like this is my problem with where they're taking this, in essence, is like, I'm not scared of these people anymore. You've shown me behind the curtain. I don't care. I'm not gonna feel scared of these people. Like the whole concept of like, oh, he's traveling with this little girl. And what could happen to this little 14-year-old girl if these monsters kidnap her and brutally rape, kill, or whatever? But now it's like, well, the leader of this crew that we're supposed to be scared of is like some lady who's upset about her brother getting killed or something. Like, I'm not scared of that. Like,
Right.
you just cut the nuts off this entire thing.
Mm.
I don't feel one iota. I just want to get through this segment of the show and move on to the next thing. And like, let's assume, I mean, I'm guessing we're going to get a bloater fight next week where it comes out of the ground and attacks all these people and shit. Like, I don't care about these people. If it's not Joel and Ellie fighting this thing by themselves, if it's going to be the creature versus this crew of hunters, I really don't care. That's just, I don't know. I think that was weak.
So they hinted at it at the beginning when they are camping out in the middle of the woods, and they want to build Ellie wants a fire, and he's like, no, and he's like, why am I telling you no? And they talk about that they're gonna do worse. Like, it just kind of leaves it hanging, like it's gonna be worse than robbing from us. And then they could have paid off in a really big way with what you're saying, and that obviously didn't happen. And my wife and I watched this together, and we're watching, and before the show came out, this woman was in the previews, Kathleen, excuse me, she was in the previews, and my wife was just like, oh, who's that woman? She looks really tough. I can't wait to find out who that is, because she's new in the show. And then we heard her talk, and then that voice didn't. I'm sorry, I'm sure she's a great actress, but her voice did not sound intimidating, imposing, threatening in any way. It lost it. Like, it lost the toughness of the character. And I get it, but she just sounded like a mean mom. No offense to anybody, but like she didn't sound like this. Why is she ordering this guy around, this military guy around? Like, it's totally like this guy. He's like, it's actually what's the Pierce, Jeffrey Pierce, who actually plays Tommy in the game.
Yep.
So like, all you hear is Tommy talking in the game, but you just hear him talking, and like, why is he taking orders from her? It just seemed flip flopped. Maybe we'll find out more in the next episode, but it was kind of hard.
I was excited for her too, by the way, because I like that actress. She's in a show called Yellow Jackets on Showtime, worth everyone's time to check out. Mm-hmm. She was in a lot of like 2.5 Men episodes back in the day. She's a funny actress typically. Gotcha. I like her and everything she's in, but yeah, no, to your point, it's like, you need to make me understand why, like, what has got these people holding her to such high esteem where she's the leader of this group. Right.
Why does everybody go following her
in this world?
Yeah.
Like, because like the political atmosphere of the 21st century is not the same as it is in The Last of Us. And I need to know how she's running the show.
Yeah, I agree. There's a fair bit of disconnect there, and that structure, that order, Jeffrey Pierce kind of being that prior military is really good at taking orders. So they kind of depict Kathleen as being a much stronger dictator of a character. She just doesn't portray it well. I'm with you guys on that. But also in trying to add humanity to these characters within the writing, they've actually pulled away from several other aspects that they could have drawn from the game that would have made more meat on the bones, so to speak, when it comes to the thriller horror aspect of it. Because this came off as very vanilla episode. It really did.
I agree.
I agree. It did do some, like, Ellie did develop more a little bit during this. You know, she brought in the jokes. She used a gun. She, like, is kind of growing up. She's like breaking through to Joel a little bit. So it's kind of, it was mentioned in the comments earlier too. She's kind of developed for sure. But besides that, I don't think this episode did give us much more than that.
What did we think of? What did we think of Ellie and the gun thing? I know that's getting a lot of heat on the internet. When she's playing with the gun and smelling it and such. Did anybody find that weird? Because I'm going to be honest, I thought it kind of worked. It was like a kid with a gun.
Yeah, I had no problem with that.
Yeah, me neither. I feel like people are reading too much into her smelling the gun. I mean, she's just interested in it. I mean, she grew up in this world where, like, it's like gold. Like,
everything she did was controlled in a quarantine zone, and she's the first time outside of that. And we're only like, what, a week or two out. I don't even know how long it's been since they've left the QZ, but she has a gun for the first time, and she knows she can protect herself. So she feels strong, and she feels like she can, she's messing with it and using it and being responsible with it, but she's trying to figure out how it works and practicing with it. So.
And follow-up question, what does everybody think about her performance so far? I mean, this was probably the meatiest episode she's had.
I remember thinking that at the time when they're walking out of the bar after she has a conversation with Joel, I'm thinking, she's kind of growing on me as Ellie. It took until now, but like after, like, she jumped through the hole, she killed the guy, and she gets to, she's like freaking out. She like wipes her tears away real fast. She's like, I'm good. And then they have the conversation, and then they kind of have the daddy-daughter talk. And then after that, I kind of felt like, okay, yeah, she's doing pretty good as Ellie.
Yeah, very, very, very heavy comparisons are being made online to Travis of Taxi Driver, right?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I don't like that. That wasn't really where I took it. And I've been one who's been thinking they've been making her a little too, like, unstable seeming. But I didn't like that. This, for some reason, it didn't bother me. I do think at the beginning, when she first was doing the dad jokes and stuff, I don't know if it was because of how it was written, but there was some awkwardness there. It didn't feel like an organic conversation between her and Joel. I thought she nailed it when she started crying. And I think that's what people who are complaining are missing, is like, okay, so she's a kid and she, like, now it hits her for real.
Yeah.
And I thought that really worked well when she cried.
Which point? There's actually several points that she cries in this.
The first. So I think the first time she cried is after she shoots the guy and she crawls back through the hole.
Right.
I think that was the first time she cried in the episode.
I think so
she
too.
Cried towards the end.
Yeah.
But yeah, that I thought that was like amazing. I thought that was really good. And it kind of helped to explain, like, I think Joel can see why she's upset, and that's why he doesn't get too mad. But I still like the idea of him getting pissed and her like throwing it in his face. Like, dude, you'd be dead without me, bro. So
yeah, I agree with you wholeheartedly. And there should be a little bit more pushback coming from Ellie to really develop her more, because I think that pushback, that gruff that she gives him over time really helps break that ice and build their relationship more so than her just tagging along.
Can you throw Three Rivers Comics comment about you would think, okay, so you would think someone born in this dystopian world would be more familiar with firearms. Kids in rural areas today have a lot more skill and safety training than Ellie did. Okay, so I'm going to push back against that because I think part of what they're kind of setting up here is like a political metaphor of what happens when you give too much control to the government. They are not going to as you could see in the show, in these quarantine zones, right? Like, you have no freedoms in there. Like, you are not free. I mean, people aren't walking around strapped with guns unless they're government folks, right? So Ellie would have been kept under very close guard. There's a reason she doesn't have a gun. They probably only really want soldiers to have guns. And if I remember correctly, Joel like stockpiles weapons elsewhere, correct? He's not like strapped with a gun all the time, is he?
To a degree, a smuggler is known more for having stashes and caches around than stockpiling necessarily, like Bill being the prepper stockpiler, if you will.
Right. So I think that that's the idea, is like, no, Ellie wouldn't have any familiarity with a firearm because nobody would have ever given her one.
Right.
Well, they did teach her in Fedra school about fingers straight off the trigger because Joel picked up on that right away.
Right. They might teach her that because they're trying to turn her into a good little soldier someday, but I don't think she'd have a gun.
Right.
Yeah. And do we know, like, we haven't gotten anything about her mother and stuff yet, right? Like, we don't know how she was raised from like infancy, correct?
Nope, I don't think we have really. I think we might learn a little more in episode 6.
Yeah.
Okay.
About the most we have is what we can derive from the 4-issue comic book series and from the Left Behind downloadable content about her being left with Marlene and Marlene bringing her to the Fedra school and being dropped off there as a much younger child.
Now, in the show, though, Marlene didn't seem to have the same relationship that she did with Ellie in the game.
Yeah,
correct.
It's like she in the show, Marlene dropped her off and then stopped being a part of her life because Ellie grows up without a memory of Marlene.
Okay,
doesn't know her face, doesn't know anything. So that would be my guess that what they're about to portray in the show is that as an infant or an extremely young toddler, she's dropped off at that Fedra school. But yeah, without her pushing back against Joel more, I'm with you guys that relationship building has been a little bit more awkward in this. And there's some scenes that we'll eventually get to and kind of bring up to speak more towards that, where Joel still sleeps with his back to her. Now, some people on YouTube and other social media aspects are saying that that's because he's guarding her. I think that's because he's guarding himself from her.
Yeah, I like the latter. That works for me. I feel like I'm not feeling as much like, because right away in the game you kind of understand what they're going for, right? Like, basically he lost his daughter, now he's being forced to take this girl, and it's like, I don't want to have any attachment to this whatsoever. And I feel like they could be hammering that home more, and they're not. I think you can get it to a degree, but like, it's not, for instance, it hasn't been a topic in my wife and I's discussion of the show. Like, it's not like it's not as forward of a theme as I feel like it should be, considering to me it's like the entire theme of the story. Like, that's what it should be, you know. But I like that. I heard her, so his back is to her. So yeah, so he doesn't have to, you know, open up. Basically, he's trying not to be.
That makes sense. Yeah.
To look as caring and concerned as he is. Oh geez. Oh boy.
I'm so glad they delivered this. I'm catching up to where we're talking about the relationship side of things, because tonight's episode is going to focus heavily on the relationships being built and some of the shortcomings as they diverge or divert a little bit from the game. And we'll just pick up some snippets here, some of the fun stuff we talked about, because like this is directly word for word. You're going to find a lot of social media creators or content creators out there with the game on the top and the show on the bottom, or vice versa, and it's word for word, and it's done extremely well. If anybody's here in the chat tonight that has not watched the episode still, I think everybody's kind of dropped a like and left and then hit notify to come back for the replay. This is perfection right from the game, and this is exactly how they tit for tat go back and forth, and like he gives her an order and she defies him. That's Ellie 101, and we get that precisely here. Masterfully done. Really, really, really well. Really happy with that.
Yeah, there was that, and her falling asleep was in the game too, I believe, which was fucking great. That was my favorite. I love that. Little shit kid, just oh no, I'm not even tired. Yeah, and then falls right to sleep.
Yeah.
And I like some of the landmarks. They did a really good job because they were moving this from Pittsburgh to Kansas City. Along the way, they focus on some landmarks. Burke Family 54, who's not in the chat anymore, hasn't watched it, but he at least watched some of the teaser portions of it that showed the amusement park with the roller coaster. And he knows the name of that amusement park, knows the name of the roller coaster. They made it very identifiable because it's something you can see from that exact highway, which is really cool. And then seeing all the buffalo kind of taking back like a herd growing nowhere near the city. So the landmarks, kind of the things at face value that people are overlooking or overseeing. And one portion was, remember they showed one of the images in the teaser trailer for this episode of the bridge, and people were saying, well, paying homage to kind of the bridge from Pittsburgh in the video game. But did anybody think that might even be the mighty Mississippi? That was one of those clue or indicators that we're beyond Pittsburgh and we're crossing the Mississippi and headed to Kansas City like they talked about?
Oh, I don't know. I guess that makes sense. Now that you say that, I hadn't thought about that before. But yeah, that could have been the Mississippi. I don't know that well enough to. I've crossed Mississippi a few times, but it looks kind of small to be the Mississippi.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a big educated person on rivers or the Mississippi, but there's several other rivers that go through that this could be portraying. But the amount of flat boats and everything that's laying out there aground, I was like, man, is this them portraying the Mississippi or potentially the crossing of the Mississippi? Because they are paying homage. This does look exactly like that bridge from the game in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
All this stuff looked like the production value on the overrun, like, post-apocalyptic world with all the grass and stuff coming out of the roads, and all that stuff was really cool looking.
All the cars, the way they were just like run down and like overgrown and rusted and broken down when they went down the highway where they had a dead end. It just looks so, like, when he got back in the car, you could see it. It looks so good.
Yeah, I mean, just the overgrowth taking over the highways, and this is just the first thing that I caught where they're passing that FedEx terminal where everything's just getting grown over. And Arby's paid homage. I guess there's a social media image floating around where Arby's actually added a bunch of vines to one of their signs at one of their locations and took a picture and shared it because you get a little bit of a teaser in here when they pass a Love's truck stop sign with a big Arby's sign underneath it, and I missed it, and it's going to take me forever to find it again. But this is what you were referencing earlier, all the overgrowth and old burnout vehicles. Look at what gets left behind. The massive sheer amount of nothingness left behind, not being utilized or just rotting.
So much.
Solo thinks either the Missouri or the Mississippi. So I'm not the only one then. I'm not the only one. Man. So again, leading back into just stuff littered everywhere. We get back to that relationship aspect, like you guys were talking about, them camping out, and I'm getting to that point so I can bring up that image of we're now delivered with one of Joel's first weakness. Actually, if we're from the video game, Joel was almost immortal, like a superhero. No, he could do no wrong. He had nothing, no superpowers, but there was nothing that would actually cause him to have any sort of an issue while moving through this campaign, if you will. But they describe him as being hard of hearing in his right ear, right?
Yep. And she noticed it, by the way.
Uh-huh.
Because she called him a few times, and while he's laying down and he couldn't hear her. So she had to, Joel, she kind of yelled.
Yep.
I think that happened more than once.
So this is kind of where we get that little debate at first, where is he keeping his back to her because he's protecting her, or is he protecting himself from her? Is he remaining guarded where he's not going to let that wall collapse and have her become that daughter figure and him turn into that father figure again? But also because...
Yeah, or the good call, or is it just his ear?
Or is it
his good ear?
His good ear. Because later on in the episode, this really comes into play in a almost fun, scary kind of way, if you will. But picking up on that, we can just talk about that. It kind of bouncing around a little bit more, but at the very end of the episode, he falls asleep with his back to her, with his right ear to the ground, with his good ear out, and then in his sleep rolls over and ends up with his right ear out. And then they get ambushed. They get stalked up upon by Henry and Sam. And that's our first introduction of those two characters. What were you guys thinking when you saw that?
So they changed that interaction as well. We knew we were going to see Henry and Sam because of what that Kathleen found earlier, the empty cans of food and the drawings of the superheroes. So we knew Henry and Sam were coming, and then saw them. And so they're the people who the group of hunters are looking for, right? They're looking for Henry and Sam. That's their whole mission. They're stopping everything just to find Henry and Sam because apparently they're traitors to this group. So they're looking for them.
Which is odd because coming from the game, Henry and Sam were just passing through with another group of individuals, and they're the last two left out of this whole group that was held up at the communication array dish that we saw in the game. But here they're really delivering Henry and Sam as community members within this community that have wronged Kathleen and wronged these other people and now have broken out on their own, but they can't really completely get out of the city. They still rely on this group for supplies to a degree.
Right. It gives that group motivation of some sort to hold a story outside of just being the people that we need to avoid while we search empty drawers and get through this area.
Seems like pretty thin ice, right? Really thin kind of a storyline there, so to speak.
Yeah, and Solo, I caught that too. I didn't understand what Joel was doing. By the way, out of curiosity, that scene, was Joel, when Joel woke up, was he on his left side?
Yes, and that was why he had his bad ear out. The reason why, you got to think Solo, you got to think Mission Impossible status here with Tom Cruise when he breaks the bulb in the hallway and then puts all the glass on the ground, and so if somebody steps on it, he hears it.
Yeah, but you could do that on the outside of the door.
Okay, on the inside
you would
of the
have
door.
It coming, right? They're already in the room ready to kill you by the time you hear that.
That's a really good point from Solo Wookiee. Is I'm in my mind, I'm okay, he's just putting that down. I didn't really think about it being inside of the room, but that adds a little bit to how did Sam and Henry even find remote?
Yeah, I don't understand. Building? I don't understand that either. I hope there's a line of dialogue somewhere.
I hope they add to that. I hope they add to that because I think they were followed. I think Sam and Henry actually followed them from the get-go because of all the commotion that was created at that coin laundry and everything, all the gunshots and the fighting that was happening. I think they started stalking them right after that, after the trucks, because if you think about it, if they were holding out in that area and those trucks showed up, the first thing they're going to want to do is dive out of there as well and not be in that area and be found. And then if they're seeing and picking up on Joel and Ellie's trail, they're just going to keep kind of following them, because
Right.
for Joel and Ellie to climb 42, 43 flights of stairs to get to the top to where they can see and then take a night's rest, unless somebody saw them or trailed them, nobody else is going to find them in that city.
I mean, I was thinking about that too, is like, how hard would it really be to find a spot to hide? In that
hard.
building alone, like you could hide there for a year and nobody would find you.
Oh, for sure.
You know what I mean? So yeah, I think that's a good theory. I like that. So
You
they
don't
were
think-
followed.
Unless they were there already? You don't think Sam and Henry were already in that building?
Sure, but how would they know what floor? Like, if you saw me enter the building, like, it's a big ass building.
It could take you days to find out. Yeah.
I see.
Did they climb high because the zombies tend to be in lower levels? No, they have Three Rivers. They were talking about climbing higher so they can get a vantage point of how to get out of the city when the sun came up after they slept for the night. Because that building did say no roof access, so they weren't trying to get all the way to the roof. They were just trying to get high enough to see out to see what they could find out in the daylight. But yeah, for that to happen, and then notice through some of the clips for the teasers for next episode and some of the teasers for this episode, I think they're throwing us a curveball, and I think Sam is going to be deaf.
He is.
There's a lot of sign language that happens, and it's not just, it's too much for it to be just a skill that they're using or learned to stay quiet. And you said for sure, has that been announced yet? Or
Yeah, I believe the actor's deaf.
Oh, the actor.
Yeah.
It's not just something they're portraying in the show. Okay.
No, they hired a deaf actor they made the character deaf.
I was unaware of that. Thank you for that education.
That's my wife told me. I didn't know.
I should have researched that a little bit more. But so what are we gonna see next week? That's gonna be kind of interesting because now in the game they weren't too defensive. It was actually Joel and Ellie that stumbled on them instead of Sam and Henry seeking them out, like in the show here.
Well, so as far as next week, outside of these characters, we're getting a bloater or some sort of gigantic monster because of the ground, right?
Yep.
Like that's happening. I'm assuming next week. I hope they don't drag that out any farther.
Right.
I would think I think you can have a lot of the same like character beats between the two sets of characters. Like, because if I remember correctly, he's kind of the anti-Joel. Like they're like kind of different in a way.
Yeah, because that's his brother, and he's doing anything to protect his brother.
Right.
So that starts off the relationship differently as well.
Right.
That's his only family left.
Yeah. So whereas Joel sees her as kind of like a burden, this guy's the opposite. Like the person he's with, that's all he's living for.
Oh yeah.
Right.
And notice how Sam's little brother portrays them as superheroes in all of the drawings and all the paintings that we find strewn throughout. So what did they do to make him, in his mind's eye, see both of them as superheroes? There must have been some injustice or wrongdoing happening within that group that they felt like they were fighting against or continue to fight against, because they always show the pictures of both of them as superheroes flying through the air, sort of.
Yeah, like so many.
Yeah.
Many pictures.
I mean, that could be it. I think that so we know Ellie likes comic books, right? Has she proven that in this show yet, or was just in the game?
So far, I think that's just in the game. We don't get to see that in the show yet.
So maybe this is where we find out, and then that's their little bonding thing, right? Is like, oh, I like comics too. Who's your favorite? Blah, blah, blah. Oh, I like Superman. Oh, you have really good taste. Superman's the best superhero ever. Yeah, I agree, because it's true.
Well, it's going to be really interesting. How are they even going to, how are they going to bond at all? Is in the game, they bonded quite a bit over the toy.
Yeah.
And his brother just really railed into him about, hey, we only take what we need. We leave everything behind. We don't want to be seen. We don't want to be found. So Ellie takes the toy and brings it to him, and they kind of bond over that. And they talk about what it's been like growing up a little bit. Well, here in the show, unless Ellie magically figures out sign language immediately overnight in her sleep, I'm not sure that they're really going to be able to bond a whole lot, which pulls away from the story, in my opinion, a little bit.
You might be right.
Yeah, because in the game, there's a time where you hear the little brother is Henry. I don't remember. Little brother is Sam. The little brother. Sorry, go ahead.
I think Sam. I
think Sam's the kid.
So Sam and Ellie are together and they're laughing. And, the older brother says, "Oh my God, it's been forever since I heard him laugh."
Yep.
So like that was something that was a big bonding moment in the whole game. So I don't know. Like you said, I don't know how they're going to portray that.
Yeah, I don't know. It remains to be seen. I'm kind of excited for this Friday. We get it 2 days early because of the Super Bowl, which I'm okay with. So I get to watch this Friday night, then do the Super Bowl Sunday night. It's going to be a great weekend. So it remains to be seen how that's going to play out. But what we did get to see a lot more of, as we kind of touched base on earlier, if we can round back out till the end of the show, is the layers being added to Ellie and the emotions that she felt when she first shot at Brandon to save Joel. Now, you guys had some really good points that I'm hoping you guys could shed a little bit more light on for me, because I feel like they're doing this differently again, and I'm wondering if it's going to detract overall.
I mean, it could help when it comes to this character's leap as far as who she is when the second season takes place.
Ooh.
We don't know how long it's going to be between seasons 1 and 2. Like, we just think that from the game, right? I mean, as far as we know, it won't be. I mean, I don't know. Anybody think this shot was framed odd and it looked like she was shooting Joel in the nuts the way that she had this gun? That was bad.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I didn't like that
way too low, because she's just not that tall.
Right.
She should be pointing straight.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like she's way more of like an innocent little girl in the game. And I think I know why they're doing this, is because the second season is going to break people's brains if they did it the same way as they did it in the game for a TV show. I don't believe it would work very well. So I think that this, at least they're giving you some of the character traits that she will inevitably have.
What'll really warp your mind is, what if they don't wait till the second season? If you think about
it already feels like that, man.
Oh my God, yeah.
But I don't know. It's hard. It's one of those things where it's like I have to try and keep the things separate. And I need to. It's hard to, though. Like, I don't like what they're doing with their relationship as much in this show as I did in the game. And maybe I would feel differently if I had never played the game. Maybe it would be working better. But this part, I think that Joel should get pissed at her. And it should be a similar scene. But then at the same time, I like how she cried here. I don't remember feeling like Ellie was as affected in the game, but that's a video game. So maybe they just didn't want to animate tears and have to deal with whatever facial animations they would have to make. I don't know. I like, this was not the weak point of the episode for me.
No.
The weak point, as much as I might not have liked what they did here, is introducing this faction that feels like a copy and paste, like not interesting, not scary group of people, when it would have been so much more terrifying to just have them be like Mad Max style nomads that we don't have like personal histories on, who are just monsters.
Yeah. Right. I mean, I was on board for the most part, almost 100%, up until we get to about this scene. And then after, when we get introduced to that faction more, I'm with you, Jackson. I was kind of like, this is where the episode kind of fell off for me and started to earn that B+, B- rating. But
yeah, they tried to give it to us when she like shoots the doctor and like
Yeah.
that was like I got nothing. Like that did nothing for me. Like
Yeah.
oh, you think you're real tough? You shot some dude who's like handcuffed in a room. You know, like oh, what do you do? Like I didn't get anything from that. And like I think that was supposed to be showing us how ruthless she is, and I don't think that did anything. You know, and I didn't like that at all. Like this Brian kid right here. He was trying real hard to try to humanize himself. Oh, my name's Brian. My mom like kept saying, you know, trying to connect with her, and even that, like, I'm like, oh, just shoot him, just shoot him. Shoot. I'm wanting her to shoot him, but
I liked this. I
yeah,
liked him begging for his life.
yeah,
And kind of her leaving the room and how she's being affected because she knows what's going on over there. So that worked for me. Because yeah, I mean, as soon as even the monsters, right? As soon as you have them and all they care about is their selfish little lives, they turn into crying pussies begging for their life. Yeah, I I agree. Three Rivers, I agree. This was way more like Walking Dead-esque, and I didn't dig it.
I hate to say this, but I agree too. Not because I don't want to agree with Three Rivers, but I don't want it to fall into that trap.
right,
Because what we get here is in the game, like Jackson saying, that she took a life to save Joel. And that was one of those moments in the game of her loss of innocence before culminating to the very kind of big thing that I really don't want to talk about too much until we see it on screen, because they cannot not do it. And here they shave away at it a little bit and make it a little less important, in my opinion. And I'm with Jackson, where I can kind of see how they're putting this on screen, and he's humanizing himself tremendously, trying to not undo what's about to happen. But then when you get to the point where she's behind the wall and we go all Saving Private Ryan with what's his face and just get right into the nitty gritty, and you can, I gagged when I started, because I'm all of a sudden, it's like, I know what's happening, and Joel's not backing down from it. But this was also, this whole scene was this kid being able to sneak up on him was an issue because Joel was unable to hear him.
Real quick, did we talk yet about the conversation when they're walking up the stairs and he talks about like, oh, or she's like, how did you know that guy was faking his injury?
We did not talk about it. Go ahead.
So yeah, that's awesome. We got a little bit of insight into Joel being a piece of shit at one point. Yeah.
Well, that's pulled directly out of the video game.
Right.
So that's done really well, also, in my opinion.
Yeah, which is why, spoilers, in the second game, when we find out the reason, and I'm not going to say it, why certain things occur to Joel, when we find out why, I thought it sucked, because I think you could have done something really interesting with like his backstory and something that's like not even morally gray that he did. Yeah, I would like to know the shitty things Joel did. But
yeah, so Solo, that's that short-sightedness of that Kathleen character, that when like Double O and Jackson say it, that's, she pulls that off, and it doesn't win us over as far as her being a badass that can't be tempered with. But more importantly, this is the real question right here that a lot of people have missed on social media. So who did she hurt before? She said she didn't want to talk about it. This, in the game, it wasn't the first life that she had taken. Well, if you've played the downloadable content, and if you've read some of the other side tales or some of the lore, her and Riley speak of a holdout after they've been bitten, and instead of taking their own lives, they were going to be whisking themselves away in zombie gloriousness together and living on forever. Well, guess who didn't turn into a stalker? Ellie. So then ultimately she has to take Riley's life. So this is the real question that gets missed a lot on what I've been digging through and searching for, is when she says it's not the first person that she's had to hurt, or she doesn't really feel like she's taken a life, but like I felt like this is what leads up to this culmination of us being delivered Riley and that kind of backstory. And I think that's kind of where we're leading this. That's the question that they're going to be answering soon here. And I'm curious if that's what you guys were feeling or not.
Well, you just spoiled it for me because I didn't play that. So thanks a lot, Andy.
Yeah, I was surprised you went there, Andy.
Hey,
I really am.
Look at the band.
You just let not only that, but you also, the viewers. I mean, we're not supposed to know that, right?
There's a spoiler banner down below.
Do you want me to just drop the end of the season? I mean, is that legal, or is that what we're going here, Andy? Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, dude.
Oh, that's hopefully that's not the end of the season at all.
No, I'm just saying. I mean, hey, is that the rules? Anything goes, Andy? I'm sitting here pussyfooting around stuff. You're just dropping bombs on everybody, or what?
Hey, it's a free for all, right?
It is. No, yeah, that makes sense to me. And it gives her an opportunity she can kind of chicken shit her way around it. I mean, if that person was going to die anyways, then what was the cost, really? She was really just doing someone a favor, but it makes her sound tough, and maybe, it makes sense. Makes sense. It would be really impactful if I didn't know that it already happened, because you just spoiled it, but
we don't know if that's actually what they're gonna do.
Oh, that's what they're doing. It makes too much sense, Andy. It makes too much sense.
They're diverting from enough that I kind of felt like if we talked about it and then let's see what actually does happen.
I think you nailed it. I think you used your psychic abilities to find out that the person she hurt was the other infected person who did turn into a zombie when she didn't. I think you nailed it.
I've deduced it.
It makes sense to me. It really does.
Something else I want to mention that we learned in this episode is that we learned Joel is 56 years old.
Yeah.
And it's a detail that, I can tell you that I know that in the second game, Joel's 56 years old.
I'm glad you brought that up because I had that in kind of like a side note there.
Yeah, so for some reason in this game, he's a lot older already, so I don't know why that is, but it's definitely a thing.
He's in good shape.
Yeah,
pushing
so
60.
It's supposed to be, Ellie's supposed to be a lot older when he's 56 years old, and a lot of other things are supposed to happen between now and then.
I'm getting scared.
However, we're in episode 4.
Just say what's supposed to happen. I mean, there's no rules now, right? Just lay it all out there for the viewers.
I'm with 00, man. Go ahead, finish.
I'm not gonna say it. My question is, we're in episode 4. We have another episode with these people here. We have a couple episodes with some other, based on the previews. We have at least one episode with some other raiders, where we're going to see Troy Baker, and there's an episode that we're going to see with Ashley Johnson. So that's I don't think those are the same episodes. So that's 1, 2, 3 more episodes. That takes us to 7. So that leaves us 2 episodes after that. Are we going to make it to Colorado?
I don't know, man.
Unless they skip over a bunch of stuff, which is possible, but it's starting to look questionable to me to where this season's going to end.
So, I just pulled up a U.S. map. Boston to Kansas City looks pretty centered to Wyoming.
Okay,
so
yeah,
we've made it about halfway
to Wyoming.
The journey, and that's where they're going, right?
That's where Tommy's supposed to be, in Wyoming.
Right.
Yeah, it was
whether it's Cody or Laramie or Cheyenne, were the 3 cities they mentioned.
Yeah, and in the game he was over by Jackson,
in
right?
Jackson Hole. Beautiful place, very expensive.
So we are halfway, Jackson, is that what you said, or are we more than halfway?
More than half, I'd say, looking at the map.
So it's fair to say that we're gonna lose out on the ish storyline from the game with the sewers and with the family. That added a lot of humanity to the game. I'm kind of sad. It looks like what they're gonna deliver as far as that goes is the entryway that we see in the teaser with Henry and Sam and with all of the paintings around there, I'm getting the feeling like that's kind of like merging the Ish storyline with the Henry and Sam storyline. I'm kind of wondering about that because they're going to have to cram a lot into a little, like what you're saying, 5 episodes left.
Right, we have 5 left, and I know we know what at least 3 of them are.
Yeah,
so
true.
That's.
If I remember correctly, Solo, Dub, go ahead, man. If I just cut you off by pulling the comment up.
No, I don't know what I'm trying to think of why they went to Kansas. I don't.
Well, I remember hearing something somewhere on a clip that Neil Druckmann and Craig Mazin decided on Kansas because it looked so much like where they were filming in Canada with the city.
Yeah, and if you look at, so they're coming from Boston, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Boston, like, we're in episode 4 now. They needed to go farther, but to your point, there might have been a better route they could have taken.
They could have gone across 80.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're going to look at the freeways, right?
I mean, who knows, though? They can have their reasons for that, I suppose. They're trying to avoid specific spots. Maybe they're, I don't know.
I'm a little discouraged with the traveling map issues as well, because Joel, being the smuggler that he is, I think Solo will hear somebody at the beginning of tonight's episode said, why would Joel even bother trying to go anywhere near a city? He would rather spend the extra time of siphoning gas or finding decent gas and go around and hold the country roads. Anybody worth their salt as far as a smuggler would go would steer far away from that.
Fair.
That's very fair. Yeah.
That's kind of a little bit of a gripe that I had. I did like that they addressed the gasoline thing. 20 years later, this stuff is almost as thin as water. It's not going to have a lot of compression. It's not going to have a lot of bang that it used to have. So that makes sense on why he says they've got to stop every hour. They're burning 4 times as much gas to keep that internal combustion motor going. And that might be why he chose the route that he did too, because of the sheer number of vehicles that they might be running into.
Yeah, that's a good point, right? If you're on the interstate, maybe you see more vehicles, whereas in the country, I mean, shit, man, you might not see one for a full day.
Yeah, I could explain that. He mentions being able to, in the past, travel on a full tank of gas for 12 plus hours. Yeah, that's one way of doing it. So I guess that we're at that hour mark, and we've talked a fair amount. Do you guys have any other kind of nitpicks or gripes or things that we've seen on screen tonight that you want to touch bases before we go into our final predictions for next week?
No, I think that we all kind of agree that this was the weakest episode thus far. Now, that's not saying too much because the show overall has been great. I would still say it's great. This episode wouldn't make me not recommend it to others. It would still... Every good episode makes me want to recommend it to more people, and this would still be the case. It's still a good episode of television. I was fully involved. It just, especially after last week's, this was not nearly as good as that.
Which is, it's almost comical of how much higher a grade this has compared to last week's. Yet last week's has 4 times the number of reviews put in for it, 170,000 plus on IMDb, and yesterday's episode has a paltry 19,000 reviews put in.
Oh, review bombers,
right?
I'm sure can't avoid them.
So the one thing that I want to say about next week's episode is that I'm sure everybody saw the trailer for next week's episode at the end. I don't like the fact that they keep showing us the bloater. Like, stop. Like, let us see it in the show. Let it have an impact. Let it give us the effect of seeing. I know we saw it in the original trailer for the show to begin with, but I didn't want to see it again until we actually saw it on screen. And that kind of, like, it's not a big deal. I don't hate the show for it, but like, it's a little thing, and I'm sure I don't know, it has to do with like bringing people in and network research that I don't know enough about. But as a fan, I wanted to have the most impact, and it definitely has taken away something by already seeing it on screen in full.
Yeah, that's one of those tough ones, right? Because we know what they are. So
Yeah.
like we see it and we're like, oh, there's that thing we're excited to see. And other people are just like, oh, what the hell is that crazy looking monster? I better tune in next week. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's fair.
But to your point, like the best monster movies are the ones where they don't show the monster for like an hour, hour and a half into the movie.
Yeah.
You work up that tension. And yeah, you did kind of, when people see it, they're not going to be surprised by what it looks like. I mean, they don't show it for long, but you can see what it looks like.
Right.
You know,
you got the whole body, the whole thing.
Yeah.
It crawling out of the ground was one thing in the original show trailer.
Well, and they set it up too. Like they have, oh, what's going to crawl out of the ground? And then in the trailer, they're like, oh, here it is. Right. You know what I mean? Like there's no impact to that anymore. That setup and payoff is gone.
Right. I didn't like that, but it is what it is. We'll get the loader. We'll take it.
Yeah, it does feel like the proverbial carrot being dangled in front of you, and for whatever reason or another, that instead of, like you're saying, just deliver it to us when they're ready to deliver it instead of teasing it. Now,
sometimes I wish I didn't watch trailers at all. Like,
yep. Well, I think I told you guys like 2 weeks before the show started that I was done watching trailers for the show. Like I didn't want to see anything else.
They have this so conveniently nestled in at the end of the episode for me.
So, yeah, I mean, it's right there. So, I mean, I can't not watch. I got to see it. I watched it for every episode of Game of Thrones. I had to see the next, the little tease. I can't help it now.
This, I think we just got an answer. I mean, do you not want to dig into the trailer a little bit more before we end?
Oh no, it's out there. Do whatever you want, whatever you have time for.
Because I'm trying to. Right there, it is. Pause it, and we think one of the things was how are they gonna connect more. It just dawned on me that he's passing her like a miniature chalkboard sign, something that he's writing words on.
There you
and
go.
She's gonna write back.
Look at that.
So that answers that question, actually. Interesting.
Looks like they're in like a cabin there. Like,
it does.
Yeah.
So that's actually a really, really incredible observation, astute observation that because if they're there in a cabin, that does not look very city-esque at all.
No.
It could be a hotel because look, there's 2 beds, there's an alarm clock, and a little nightstand in the middle. It looks just like the layout of a hotel.
Yeah.
How many hotels like that are you going to find in downtown Kansas City? So that episode, how much time do you think of that? That leads me to believe that we're not going to be stuck in that city for the whole episode.
You will find hotels like that in Wyoming.
And there's
definitely in Jackson, Wyoming.
Oh, you will?
Northern Wisconsin too.
I've been to hotels like that in Jackson, Wyoming.
So go ahead.
I was just going to say, Andy, how like you did all this setup for this lady who runs the hunter crew. Like you got to spend time on it, right? That's the problem. Like we're not getting out of there immediately.
No, but they played it so vanilla and so bland. It doesn't feel like there's going to be, it feels like we're going to hit the ground running, literally, as we've seen. I think that the time that Joel and Ellie spend with Henry and Sam in that city is going to be much shorter than we might be thinking. And we're going to hit the ground running and shit's going to just bust out and be crazy. Because when did Joel get a scope on the rifle he's been carrying this whole time?
Oh, hell yeah. Let's go.
Where do you think this derives from?
Well, clearly he picks it up and takes it to a workbench. And then you have a scene where he flips the light switch on and he like has to choose which weapon he wants to upgrade.
For all the parts that he found in the drawers.
Yes. Yeah. He's got just bland parts in the drawers. Yeah. Right. And if he gets 50 of them, then he can make a scope.
And then put it on the top of his. Yep.
You feel like you guys are picking fun at me, and I greatly appreciate it. Because
no, you're right though. He's got a scope, or he could theoretically just kill someone and take it off him real quick. In the next episode,
what's one of the big sections of the video game where he used a scope rifle?
Well, right when they meet Henry and Sam, or in the middle of Henry and Sam,
shortly thereafter,
right.
the city, they run into that corridor of that street that they have to go down against a sniper.
Oh, that was awesome. Please put that in here.
Yes.
Please.
This is why I'm really kind of excited. And then if you look when it comes to the fighting scene, the bloater, the fire where they're kind of spitting that out, this doesn't look like it's in the city at all, really. This looks like it's on the outskirts, suburban. Those look like homes in the background.
Oh man, it just got me excited. So we lost the Joel dangling from his ankle with the refrigerator trap, but hopefully we don't lose this too.
I'm really pumped that I hope this is where they're going with this, and that the actual bloater scene isn't that concrete floor issue that we were seeing. I don't think that that's necessarily the bloater. I think that's like the fungus trying to break through to some degree, and maybe, but where that scene is with the bloater, with the fire and everything, and the bloater climbing out of the ground, some people are thinking that's where that Jeffrey and Kathleen found that sinking in concrete area. Well, how is that concrete building gonna burn and deliver us that burning scenario scene that we saw? I think it's a suburban kind of home on the outskirts of the city where they're being chased by this group, and then this happens, and I kind of don't know what the hell's going to happen with that crappy floor in that city building, or if they're just alluding to more. But like, there's some elements playing in here that I think that we're going to be given a very, very dynamic, very energized episode. I just hope that they're not trying to do too much in such a short period of time, like 00 saying.
This episode, I believe, is longer. This next one. I don't remember exactly the runtime, but I think it's longer than the one we just saw. And then it's airing on Friday, but then it's also airing again on Sunday at the regular time.
Okay, so they're doing an early premiere and then the regular.
Correct. So people who normally want to watch it on Sunday, for those people that, I don't know who they are, but that don't care about the Super Bowl, will still watch it on Sunday night if they want.
Is it going to be on HBO Max all weekend?
I don't know that.
I'm assuming it would be, right?
Once it premieres, you think it would be?
It's premiere. Isn't it premiering on HBO Max? Like, it's not even hitting HBO till Sunday. Is that correct, or is that wrong?
I only have HBO Max, so I'm not sure.
Right. Yeah, I think that's the case. I am out next week, by the way, guys. So I won't be able to discuss all these fun things with you.
Oh no, you'll have to watch the replay then, or watch us live. Or,
I will.
Or
if I can deal with the time difference, I'll be live chatting you. But
I know there are actually many community members out there. There's several that have messaged me about wanting to make the schedule work to be on. Maybe one of those people will reach out and see if they're available for next week, because there's a lot of Last of Us fans out there. But I tell you guys, if this is the delivery of a bloater, this just does not look like a big city building to me. It looks like a building with siding on it, much like a house or an urban, a suburban area.
We'll see. It's hard to tell.
It is.
Yep.
It looks like The Thing from the Fantastic Four movie with Michael Chiklis. I'm not blown away by that bloater design in that picture.
It does look pretty bloated.
It does, yeah, just like Michael Chiklis. Yeah.
Oh boy. Yeah, I can't thank you guys enough for another really, 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 really fun week on an episode that we all kind of agree wasn't our favorite, but it still delivered some impactful hits and some fun stuff. So, man, does this mean we're gonna get our socks knocked off next week?
I hope so.
Yeah, I hope so.
I hope so as well. That rounds it out. That's the end of the episode. But before we head out, man, we'll go right around the horn. Jackson, man, where can people find you, and what do you have going on this week?
You can find me here. That's it right now. What I have going on, nothing, working, during the day. And then next week I'll be on vacation. So I will see everybody in 2 weeks right here.
Nice.
Looking forward to having you back, man.
And if I get a chance, I'm going to try to watch it on Friday night before I leave. I will send my thoughts your way to the two of you.
Nice.
And we'll definitely share those, man. Awesome. Thank you again for your time. 00, man. Where can people find you?
So you can find me on Renovision on Wednesday nights for the tax show. And then in about 2 weeks, maybe 2.5 weeks, I will be appearing live at the Great Lakes Comic Convention with the wife. She will be setting up as well, selling her beautiful artwork and charms and accessories. She is the Spooky Seance. So we got a booth there, and we'll be hawking our wares at the show. So I think it's the 24th, 25th, that weekend. I don't know what the dates are exactly, but the end of February.
What
That's
do you guys?
exciting.
Yeah,
What city are you guys traveling to for that?
It's like the closest show for us. It's in Warren, Michigan. It's a Macomb Community College campus. So it's roughly not even 30 minutes away from where we live.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah. I used to live like across the street from there a few years back, but now it's about half hour away. It's right by my LCS. So I'm excited. We're going to set up there. It's like a 2-day show, and it's going to be a quick, and now we'll be able to come home at night. So
nice. I'm gonna have to look into that. It's pretty much just a comic vendor show and some others. It's not like a pop culture one.
Not a lot of pop culture. It's mostly comic and mostly comic guests.
Very cool.
Like Dan Didio is going to be there. Bill Morrison's going to be there. Last year, Jim Shooter was there. Things like he's a comic guy. So
very cool. I'm gonna have to look that up and see if I can make that trip out there because. Boy, you guys can find me at NWI Comic Con this Saturday over by Gary, Indiana, south of Gary, Indiana. That NWI Comic Con is going on, and I went there with a couple of friends last year, and we had an absolute ball for a nice, fun, small convention. A little bit of a hike, but we had such a fun time. We want to go out and support that. There's a bunch of community members that are a part of that we'd like to support. That's going to be a lot of. That's essentially my first convention of the year. Really, really, really affordable tickets to get in. Going to be a lot of fun.
Nice.
It'll be interesting to see what books are going to be priced at.
Yeah,
for sure. But hey, it's Monday night, which makes tomorrow Tuesday night.
Oh, are you doing the news show? Comic News Weekly?
Comic News Weekly has moved to this channel, and tomorrow night is the first night it runs solely on this channel. And it's scheduled, it's up, it's ready to go. So pop over there, give it a like, hit the notification button, and let's see if we can get as many people as possible over there to see if we can kind of get that inaugural show up and going. I'm really looking forward to that. Same group of people: Brian, Simmelsman's Comics, myself, Ryan of Rhino Comics, and we've got Brian McClay from Beyond Wednesdays. So same content, same people. It's going to be a whole lot of fun, man.
That's at 9:00, right?
Yep, 9:00 tomorrow night. And then probably keep scheduling my Wednesday New Comic Book Day shows at 8:30 because those have been a nice little fun 30-minute shot there.
Nice. And then do you do something on the weekend too, or is that just as it comes up?
It depends. Friday nights now are going to be the CGC unboxing nights for the channel. Okay. And we're 3 unboxings into the year already. And there's already another CGC box sitting here ready to go.
Wow. So you're just giving away slabs.
We are every time we do a live CGC unboxing, we give away a slab to somebody live in the chat. So we're having a lot of fun with that. In fact, I just finished packing up the one from last Friday, get that dropped in the mail for Burke Family 54, who won that slab. And I think we'll wait a week or two. I don't know, not too long. And their CGC's pumping these things out so fast, just so fast. Amazing. It is amazing. But that's it. It's time to go. We're all ready. We're all ready to decompress and then get ready for this Friday. Holy moly. So you guys know how we're going to do this, right? Who's here in the chat that remembers how we do this, right? So I'm going to go peace out. I'm going to go pinkies out. I'm going to catch you on the flip side for the next one, and we're all going to be here minus Jackson. But Jackson will be here in spirit, right? Have a great week, everybody. Remember, the most important part all day, every day, stay original and take care of each other because we're all we've got. Absolutely. See you guys next week. Or see you guys tomorrow night.
Oh, yeah.
Tomorrow night.
Be excellent to each other. And party on, dudes.